On Hot Talk 570 KVI.
There's a good reason. A very, very, very good reason. There's a good reason. People come back to SeaTac Mall.
Experience the spirit of the season at SeaTac Mall, where the gift is in the giving. Stroll through our carpeted corridors and comfort and choose gifts from over 115 specialty shops and 4 major department stores. And while you're searching for that perfect something for someone else, stop by the mall's customer service booth and treat yourself to something special. An Arctic ornament, free gift wrap, and even tickets to a holiday with lights and enchanted parks could be yours from SeaTac Mall. SeaTac Mall is also giving the gift of hope this season by supporting the following organizations: the Domestic Abuse Women's Network, the Community Caregivers Network, the Point Defiance Zoo, and many more. When you visit SeaTac Mall this season, please look for the ways you can help us help others. Experience the spirit of the season at SeaTac Mall, where the gift truly is in the giving. SeaTac Mall, in the heart of Federal Way on 320th.
The president at Ballard Computer has had it.
They're just madder than the vet him.
Everybody and their Uncle Snuffy is selling computers today, and they all say they've got the lowest prices. Somebody's lying.
I think they're all full of Lutzdisk.
Ballard Computer knows price is an important starting point when choosing a computer. That's why our prices are just as low as anyone's. But when you spend a lot of money on a new computer, you deserve more than a good price. That's where the president's "yeah, sure, you betcha" guarantee comes in.
When you buy a new computer from Ballard Computer, I guarantee that you'll get 60 days free telephone technical support, along with the best darn price in town, too. You've got my word on it.
So enough already with the "we've got the lowest prices." The best deal is at Ballard Computer. You have our word on it. The locally owned computer company, Ballard Computer, user-friendly.
Make no down payment, pay no interest, and make no payments until 1996. That's over 1 year away, folks. Now at Ballard Computer.
Hot Talk 570 KVI presents the free KVI bumper sticker featuring your favorite KVI hosts. Pick yours up today. For a Mike Siegel sticker, visit Japanese Auto Parts and Service. For John Carlson, see Valley Pontiac Buick GMC in Auburn. And for Kirby Wilbur, visit Aurora Antique Pavilion, Antiques at Hollywood, or Mad Hatter Antique. The KVI bumper sticker. It's free. So get yours today and stick it on the right. From Hot Talk 570 KVI.
Got something to say on this topic? Give us a call at the KVI studios in King County at 421-5757. In Pierce County, that number 751-5757. In Snohomish County, 348-5757. In Kitsap County, 698-4700. U.S. West cell phones can also call us at the KVI studios toll-free. Pound 570. Let's hear from you right here on the Laura Lee Show on 570 KVI.
A lot of people think that to appreciate culture, you've got to enjoy things like this. Or this. In early Mesopotamia, evidence of the first audit exists in the form of lists on clay tablets. Well, a lot of people respond to those things like this. Fabulous. Other people go... Is it over? For those of you in the category, you can't expect every cultural activity to appeal to everybody. That's why 23,000 arts and humanities groups called the National Cultural Alliance are offering you something everybody likes. A choice! For a free brochure about what's going on in your community, just call 800-NCA-8888. A little redundant? That's okay. And then you can get excited about something like this. Oh, yes. William Tellito. The arts and humanities. There's something in it for you. The National Cultural Alliance and the Ad Council invite you to explore what's available in your community. Just call 800-NCA-8888.
Keep listening. Weeknights at 6, hear the son of President Reagan, Mike Reagan, and count on Hot Talk 570 KVI.
Hello, we are back. Hi, I'm Laura Lee. You're listening to The Laura Lee Show. We're doing some open phone discussion on Tai Chi and some of the philosophy that Frederick Lehrman has just talked about, your take on this and how to apply it to other, aspects of life that we deal with on a daily basis, and part of the human dilemma. What can we make of this with given that new perspective? And also, do you have, and I want to hear it if you do, or can you muster an explanation for seemingly miraculous kinds of phenomenon that people can perform. Now, I've heard of a few of them. I have heard of Jack Schwartz, who we've had on the show, who is in Ashland, Oregon, who can stick knitting needles through his arm and out again and not leave any trace, like no holes and blood and all that kind of stuff. And I have heard of other miraculous things. Somebody was telling me about Babaji. I keep hearing about Babaji in India, and people have actually claimed to be there and have like incense dust put in their hands. Somebody told me that they actually have a ring, a piece of jewelry that was manifested just out of thin air. I hear these stories and I wonder. Also, there's the famous woman, Olga, I think her name was. Somebody will please call me up and tell me her full name, who in Russia, I think she died a couple years ago, who would move under glass a compass needle. She would just put her hands over it and concentrate and look like she was really putting some energy into this thing, and it would move, or she'd have toothpicks that would kind of follow her hands around, and this was all done under a glass case and all this kind of stuff. Please, how does this happen? Can you please explain this to me? Call us up and let me know. But first, Sean from Seattle joins us. Hello, Sean.
Hey, Laura Lee. How are you?
Good.
I'm calling from a car phone, so I apologize for the reception.
Oh, sounds great.
We're talking.
Sounds better than some of these people talking on these cheap phones. Hope somebody's getting some phones for Christmas. Go ahead.
Well, it's not very cheap, but it doesn't come in too well. But anyway, we're talking on the subject of Tai Chi, and I'd like to tell a little story, something kind of phenomenal.
Oh, let's hear it.
I studied Tai Chi several years. My grandfather was half Japanese, so he knew a little bit about it. And he taught me a lot about it. And my wife, when I studied, she liked to, follow along with me a little bit. And a couple years ago, I believe it was 1993, I was working on my car, and the car jacked up, and it was kind of jacked up in the middle, and I was in the back, and I was underneath the car. And as I was working on the car, the jack tilted, or the car tilted, and fell back on me, where it was pressing on my chest, not quite to the point where it could hurt me, but it was getting, a few more inches, and it could have definitely leaned. I could have been dead.
Anyway, this car was leaning on you, not as full weight, obviously.
Not
the
full weight, but it was to the point where I couldn't get out, and it had more room to lean. And in a matter of moments, I could have been crushed had it leaned a little bit further. But anyway, I called to my wife, who she's about, I think, 5'3". She weighs about 97 pounds. She's not very a strong person. I guess for her size, she's average, but not necessarily a very strong, like a weightlifter or what have you. But when I called to her, she lifted the car, actually lifted not the entire car because it was on the jack, but she did help to lift it off of me, which I imagine was probably a deadlift of about 400 pounds, which for a woman of her size is quite phenomenal. And I attribute that to the power of Tai Chi. And from that point on, I've had a definite belief in it. And I just want to share that with your listeners, the actual power that it does have for some people.
I'm so glad you called in, because I've heard these stories about women that see their child, or in your case, her husband, trapped under a car and come in and lift these things. And if you had asked her to lift the same car and you weren't in danger, or if you were come on here, honey, see how much you can lift of this. Obviously, she wouldn't have been able to do it quite, one would assume.
Right.
So here we've got a real-life story about this. I've been wondering about that.
It's quite amazing. You never know what people can do under those circumstances, but I do. I give some of the credit to the power of Tai Chi. I just want to share that with you.
Yeah, she wasn't a Tai Chi practicer, but you're saying that...
But she had picked up on some of the technique of it just from following along with me and doing it occasionally.
Oh, I see. And you're a Tai Chi practitioner.
I of course, from that point on, it meant a lot more to my life, and I pretty much dedicated my life to it from that point. But just a little something to share with you, and I want to say happy holidays to everyone out there, and I do love my wife. Her name's Angela.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, Sean and Angela.
You're
Great
welcome.
story.
Bye-bye.
I really think that experiencing these things is part of that course, that part of what sets us off on that course to explore these mysteries and to be open-minded to them. My whole life, mine personally, I'll tell you a personal story, is that discovery of an explanation for things that were happening to me and things that were obvious to me because they happened to me. And then my intellect going, well, I'm feeling a little bit of a dichotomy here. I'm feeling a little bit of a separation between what could possibly be that would then provide a synchronous and compatible explanation for personal experiences and what I'm told by society at large is happening. So I was bumping up at an early age to this philosophy that there is, well, as Rick Levine earlier and Frederick Lehrman were saying, that only one small subset of the picture would be that there's physical reality, and that's all that there is. And when you are having some of these experiences, then you automatically know that there's something beyond, that there's something in addition to, that's just one small part of the whole. And you have to make a decision early on. Either I'm crazy or the world's crazy. I mean, that's, to me, what it came down to. And I, of course, decided, well, the world is crazy. The world doesn't know what it's talking about. And I'm going to go find out what's really going on here. And that can put you on quite a quest. And I think that because it's so problematic and so mysterious and so full of paradox and loopholes, and you can get fooled so easily, and it's really a test. I think it's the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talks about. And he's saying that we are all on a hero's journey, and you must test yourself and your own strength and your own wit and your own integrity. And I think that we're all doing that collectively. I think Frederick and Rick were right that, and Greg Braden talks about this as well, that Earth herself has set up some sort of a test, some obstacle course for us, mentally, physically, emotionally, our heart, our minds, our bodies, all of it are going through this course. And as some other people would say, what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. I think it's a fascinating course that we are all on. Mike, you've got the name of the woman in Russia who could move objects. I'm so glad. What is it?
Good morning. It's Olga Kulesheva.
That's it. Thank you.
Kulesheva. And question now. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
When will you be next having Richard Hoagland on again?
Oh, gosh, let's see. I don't know. We don't have anything scheduled, but he's always welcome on the show. I think he's going to come back to Seattle, where I am based, in April or something. So we'll want to talk to him then. But I will tell him. Of course. He's got new news. That's our bargain. He says, well, he's got something to say, some new news that he hasn't shared with us before. He's been delving into some very interesting corners here of his story. What's another question or comment that you have? Is that it?
Oh, gee. There are so many of them that it's so early in the morning now that I have to catch.
Don't you find that you just think more clearly this hour in the morning? I do. I can wake up in the middle of the night and it's like, oh yes, the whole universe is just touchable now, because I guess there's less static, in the air or something, or less people thinking, or more people in a dream state, and it's more wide open. I don't know. I like this time of night.
Oh, the reason I was asking about Richard Hoagland, when he was last on with you there, I tried to get in to pop some questions to him,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just couldn't get in. The line was so tied up. He's very popular here.
Yeah, he is. So, but he's also a good guest for a long haul, so that we can get all the calls answered, or at least try to.
Oh, do you have that fellow from Borderland Science scheduled in the near future?
Tom Brown?
Yeah.
I'll check with him and see what kind of new info and research he can bring to the table, but they're always sticking their noses into some interesting corner, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Great stuff, yeah.
Yes, particularly about this power grid that envelops the Earth at certain longitudes.
It's amazing how we keep building that picture. More and more pieces start falling into place, and then sets the stage for the next kind of conjecture, and then search it out and see how it all fits. It's a fascinating story. It's kind of like watching something organically grow. Our own perceptions of what this unseen energy field is, and we draw upon earlier concepts and earlier discussions of it and earlier research in science, and then add to what the late 20th century can bring to it. It's fascinating.
Yes, indeed. Now, has he ever mentioned anything, or has anybody brought up the question regarding this gravitational magnetic anomaly in Oregon called the Oregon Vortex?
We have talked about that vortex a number of times with several folks, and gosh, I really want to go down there and visit. Is it still open, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
I wish somebody would call in the next 10 minutes who's been there and can tell us about it. I know I was there as a child, and I vaguely remember it. I remember seeing water run at an angle from
uphill.
A faucet, and I remember seeing it run uphill, and I remember seeing balls run uphill, and I remember seeing perceptual breaks in our logic, where things at one end of something would look small, and at the other ends they'd look way too large, so it didn't match what you think your eyes would normally perceive. Some interesting stuff like that.
Magical misperceptions there, apparently. You think?
And we're going to do some open phones for the next 10 minutes, so give us a call if you have something to say about that. I would really like an explanation for some of these miraculous things that people have been able to perform. Now, I'm assuming that this is a true thing. Of course, skeptics will tell you that there's no phenomenon at all. And I know that this is the take that I think that you can pretty much demonstrate there is a phenomenon, and there are things that happen that are not possible within our realm if we're going to hold on to our old paradigm. So either something's got to give here. Either our old paradigm gives, which is to say that yes, people can perform some seemingly miraculous things, but we only call them miraculous, or we only call them anomalies when they're outside of our narrow paradigm or a worldview that has these boundaries on it that would say that which we call anomalies or paranormal or miracles aren't part of our daily experience. There's something other, so they're outside our normal boundaries. So the skeptics are going to come and try and say that, number one, boundary, that the anomalies don't exist, that they're hoaxes or what have you, or that UFOs, for example, there is no phenomenon that can all be explained. But then when you really look at the science, and of course I think science comes to our aid here, you find that yes, there are UFO sightings that we just cannot explain, that there are UFO experiences that happen. And if we're going to believe eyewitness reports and credible people who give these eyewitness reports, you have a choice. Either you have to throw out all eyewitness reports, or you allow the same eyewitness reports in because they pass the same criteria in as, say, the eyewitness reports that you allow in that would give you testimonial that you accept for other phenomenon. The stuff that ends up in court and putting people behind bars. I mean, you have to say if it matches the same criteria, do you use a double standard, or do you allow everything in that meets with this one criteria that is duly scrutinized and passes muster. So we're left with this dilemma. Either we throw open our boundaries carefully, cautiously, but throw them open and expand them. And I would think that these anomalies or some of these paranormal experiences would be the signpost to mark the new territory as we expand. That would be my thought. And coming up, we're going to have Dr. Berthold Schwarz tell us all about this. But first, let's take a call from Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Laura.
How are you?
Well, I'm great. How are you today?
Good, thank you. I'm having a good time.
Well, great. A few things you were just talking about that it wasn't the purpose of my call, but I'm kind of at a point myself with UFOs, just kind of very cautiously expanding my I guess, belief system and my personal paradigm.
Uh-huh.
And it's a rather painful process. I guess I've been a fairly skeptical, I thought pragmatic person in the past. Just the past few years, I really...
No, and of course, Frederick would say it's only painful because you were resisting, but
well,
go
exactly,
ahead.
Exactly. And I think cautiously is a very good way of putting it.
Well, I mean, we want an open mind, not a gaping mind.
Exactly. exactly. One thing I wanted to ask you, and as a matter of fact, I must tell you how much I've enjoyed your show and have kind of followed you around after I moved into Seattle and kind of first heard you one night on Insomnia. What's that?
How long have you been in the Seattle area?
About a year and a half.
Oh, well, welcome.
Thank you. And I'm from Portland. Anyway, the first night I heard you, you were speaking to a gentleman about a shape, and it's like the shape of a conch shell or
the nautilus.
a biological shape that keeps appearing throughout biology and life forms on the planet. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that was Rick Levine, and he was talking about the Fibonacci number series and how it's unfolding and how it's expressed through life and biology and the shape of our own bodies.
Yes.
Have this golden means proportion. And in fact, we have that tape if anyone is curious and wants to hear it.
Oh,
it was a wonderful discourse.
That was a fascinating show, and I've been hooked ever since, I must say.
There's so much to know, and it just makes the world so rich and gorgeous. You know, all this stuff is going on. That tape is available through our catalog, and our catalog is, you can get the catalog, it's free. The tapes are very affordable, $7 each, and just give us a call at the Laura Lee Show offices. I have two numbers, locally to Seattle, 206-781-4473. If that's long distance to you, then please do call our 800 number at 1-800-243-1438.
Great, thanks. You know, I was listening to, I guess Carl Sagan has a new book out. He was kind of promoting on NPR the other day. And I was desperately trying to call him and just ask him on, kind of this groundswell I've been seeing lately on UFO activity. And as a matter of fact, it's interesting to see all of a sudden flurry the past, I would say several months even, of mainstream media reporting. I've seen some things, shots of video from Mexico City, I think, or I think it was Mexico City. But I understand that he is adamantly opposed, man. The ultimate skeptic, and I want to kind of challenge him on it.
Well, when does it become propaganda? If we have a preconceived notion of how the world should be, and when we meet up with anomalous information that doesn't fit the picture, either you fairly investigate it, and I think in the case of UFOs and other anomalies, one of my favorite batch of them have been the anomalies of human antiquity that we talked about with Michael Cremo, another fascinating set of books and tapes that we also carry at our catalog. Then either you say, we've got to open the picture, we've got to open the door, we've got to expand our boundaries, our parameters, our worldview, our paradigm, or if you keep denying it, I think what you're turning into is a propagandist.
I must tell you what really planted the seed in me. I don't know how much time you have, but the
4 minutes.
The two people on this planet that I would say that I trust more than anyone, I mean, absolutely implicitly, my mom and my sister, who are both very religious and very conservative, and would have absolutely no reason at all to invent anything like this. We were driving down in kind of a caravan down the west coast to my sister's wedding 12 years ago, and the whole family kind of in cars separated, and they ended up several miles ahead of us. And at one point, they had a kind of a family friend, an older lady with them, and said that a disc, and they described it down to the color of the light, came alongside the car they were driving, followed them for several miles, and this is the most amazing, and they get so defensive if you're at all skeptical of them. But these are three people that have absolutely no reason that I know personally and trust implicitly to invent something like that.
Now, did it change their worldview? Did they look...
No, I see more of a... they don't discuss it. It's been very much denial.
Well, that's the other way to go.
Yeah. And basically because it challenges their whole belief system. I think it's just too much for them to handle at this point,
Well, I think anomalies can be very disquieting or exhilarating depending on your sense of adventure and your frame of reference.
Exactly.
And I think...
And they're very comfortable where they're at, thank you.
Okay, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But I just feel like we're going to have to make a choice sooner or later because the anomalies are coming out as fast and furious. And I think it's just going to be more comfortable in the long run if you beckon their call and open up the death grip that we have on our current world views and our comfortable comfort zone earlier than later.
Precisely. I agree. And I'm kind of, I've just really been on that journey just the past maybe year or so in focus, and it's exciting.
It's an adventure.
Yeah, and I'll take a couple steps forward, and then what the hell am I doing? And go back a step.
It really requires the guidance of our intuition and our heart as well. I mean, we must have an intellect intact because we must use discernment.
Oh, sure.
And I also think that all the synchronicity and all the real adventure comes when we also open it up to our intuition and let that still small voice guide us as well.
Exactly.
And when we find that meeting point of the two, then I think we're really in business. I must run, but I want to thank you for your call.
Thank you, Laura.
It's been fun, and I'm glad you're here.
Thanks.
And I want to let you know that coming up, a very wonderful gentleman. I've only had a few minutes on the phone with him briefly, and I was charmed, Dr. Berthold Schwarz. And here again is a scientist who's got a very open mind and an open heart and is throwing his paradigms wide open, and we'll go on a journey with him to look at folks, ordinary human beings that have these unordinary abilities, paranormal, miraculous kinds of talents. And we'll get the full scoop from Dr. Berthold Schwarz when we come back. I'm Laura Lee.
This is Western Washington's #1 news talk station, 570 KVI. KVI Seattle. Hot talk for the Northwest.
Here's the latest from ABC News. I'm Catherine Cowdery. Rethinking security at the White House after the latest shooting incident.
You block the White House off so nobody can see it. You've taken it away from the American people. It belongs to us. So if you do that, the crazy people have won.
Security expert Noel Koch says there's no perfect way to protect the president or the White House. The building did not entirely escape damage when shots were fired at it early yesterday morning. Published reports say one of the bullets penetrated a window of the state dining room directly below President Clinton's bedroom. The bullet hole was apparently not noticed right away because it was hidden by a Christmas wreath. Investigators have found 4 9mm bullets on the White House grounds and say all of them were apparently fired from the same gun. There are no suspects, and officials are not sure if the White House was the intended target. Russian forces are reportedly bombing strategic targets on the outskirts of the Chechen capital of Grozny. The official ITAR-TASS news agency confirms the bombing, but is not giving any more details. Former President Jimmy Carter is on his way to Bosnia after making a quick stop in Frankfurt, Germany. He was met by Ambassador Charles Redmond and Special Envoy Charles Thomas. Thomas and the former president have just arrived in Zagreb. Now this.
What if you could put a machine on your head that taught you foreign languages, improved your memory, vocabulary, even programmed you for success, and makes learning seem almost effortless? Hi, I'm Dane Spotts, the president of Zygon. We've invented an amazing new technology that lets you relax while you learn. It's called the Learning Machine. Using a special learning CD and a computer headset that looks like something out of a science fiction movie, the Learning Machine focuses your attention while the interactive lessons are delivered into your mind. It's so cool it actually feels like a movie playing inside your head. And because it's so entertaining, it motivates you to want to learn. If you call 1-800-LEARNING right now, I'll send you a free demonstration kit along with the incredible Learning Machine to try risk-free. With programs for speed reading, vocabulary, memory improvement, phonics, foreign languages, and more. See how easy and fun learning can be. Call 1-800-LEARNING for more information. That's 1-800-LEARNING.
Democratic Congressman Bill Richardson is in North Korea, and he wants to see the 2 U.S. pilots who crossed into the communist country yesterday. Stu Nagurka is Richardson's press secretary.
Congressman Richardson has stressed that failure to aggressively investigate this case and failure to return the missing servicemen would have a serious impact on U.S.-North Korea relations.
Pentagon officials say the helicopter was on a routine training mission when it strayed into North Korean airspace. North Korean officials say they shot it down. There's no independent confirmation that North Korea actually has the missing pilots. It's a skiing trip the Barnharts will never forget. On their way to the slopes, their car was buried in an avalanche.
I was in the front seat with my dad, and I ended up on top of him, and so I had to move because he couldn't breathe, and so I went forward, and I had the windshield on me and the back of the passenger door and the ceiling on me.
Jamie Barnhart and her family are all right. 4 cars were buried when tons of snow tumbled across U.S. Highway 2 near Stevens Pass, Washington. Well, personal computers are one of this year's popular holiday presents. ABC's Bob Hart offers some advice.
Buying a home computer is a little like buying a car, but some people don't see it that way.
People look at computers like they're making a purchase that they're going to keep forever.
Sean Fulton of Home PC Magazine says given advances in technology, you'll probably trade the PC you buy today for another in 5 years or so, just like you'd trade in your old car. How much to spend?
The price point that we're seeing right now for, competitive PCs that do what most people will want to do in the home is somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000.
Get down to about $1,000 and you'll probably wind up with a PC that's discontinued and on its way out. Bob Hart, ABC News.
I'm Catherine Cowdery, ABC News.
KVI Newsroom. Here's the Northwest Weekend Update.
Good morning, I'm Damon Creed. It's dangerous to be in the Cascade and Olympic Mountains this weekend because of avalanches. Snow slides injured at least 9 people and blocked Highway 2 through Stevens Pass. Washington State Patrol and the Department of Transportation reopened Highway 2, though, about 2.5 hours ago. The Highway 2 slide buried 4 cars about 6 feet deep and injured 9 people, none seriously. 2 members of the ski patrol at Mission Ridge near Wenatchee were caught in avalanches, one of them injured critically. The heavy rain and melting snow that's causing the snow slides is also pushing several streams and rivers to flood limits. You'll see flood warnings on the Skokomish River and for streams in Mason and eastern Jefferson counties. A flood watch posted on the Satsop River in Grays Harbor County. Edmonds police are still looking for suspects and a motive in the strangulation death of a 90-year-old woman at her home earlier this week. The woman's body was found by her son, who stopped by the house after unsuccessfully trying to reach her by phone. It's the first case of homicide in Edmonds this year. Seattle police are holding an 18-year-old man for investigation in the shooting death of another man early yesterday morning at a downtown bus stop. Police nabbed the suspect moments after the shooting while he was trying to hide behind some cars. Here's a nice Chris Holiday present. Last night's winning lotto numbers: 13, 35, 38, 41, 45, 49. 2 winning tickets. $10 million was the jackpot, and they'll split that prize. The winning Quinto hand, well, there was no winning ticket in Quinto. That jackpot there will increase to $1.2 million. The Sonics posted their 9th straight home victory at the Tacoma Dome last night. They clobbered the Orlando Magic, 124-84. KVI Skyview traffic. Maple Valley Highway, that's southbound 169 at Southeast 416th. The right lane blocked due to an injury accident. The KVI Soundview forecast: rain off and on, breezy winds, lows in the mid-40s. Tomorrow, rain and gusty winds, highs in the low to mid-50s. I'm Damon Creed, KVI News.
Getting it said for Seattle. This is Hot Talk 570 KVI. Now it's time for the unusual, the interesting, and the fascinating. This is Alternative Talk with Laura Lee.
And hello and welcome to the Laura Lee Show. I'm Laura Lee. Our next guest was suggested to me by Ron Freeman, who was an earlier guest on our show. See this little network we've got going. Dr. Berthold Schwarz, a fascinating gentleman involved in the study of UFOs, of the paranormal, and lately, in particular, of people who have these extraordinary abilities. One gentleman that has been under Dr. Schwarz's study is a young man of about 30 years old named Joey, who can levitate objects, I'm told. And I'm very, very curious about this. Welcome, Dr. Schwarz, to our show. There you are. Hello.
Hi, Laura Lee.
And welcome. Oh, could you speak up just a little bit?
Sure thing.
Oh, much better. Well, tell us the big picture of how you got into this and what you've been looking into and what kinds of theories and thoughts and opinions and experiences you have. Lay some background for us, and then we'll talk about the newest chapter in your long and interesting adventure.
Well, way back in college, at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, they had the wonderful stacks. And this was in the war and such, in the Navy, and it was, when you had some time off, it was always a pleasure to wander through the stacks and do some fun things in addition to all the assignments. And naturally, I stumbled upon the wonderful library in reference to psychical phenomena and became interested in it. Then along the way, one of my favorite professors was a good friend of Kenneth Roberts, who at the time had finished some books on Henry Gross, the famous Maine dowser, the gentleman with a divining rod, who could douse water in Bermuda, although he was in Maine, later on missing people and objects and solved crimes, all sorts of things. So I met Henry, one thing led to another, and during my fellowship at the Mayo Clinic, you see across, and in psychiatry I might say, you see across the board in the cases as any physician would see, and I had some interesting material come across my desk, and I also had some patients under treatment. In the course of treatment, you report to your supervisor, like a psychoanalyst, so you're doing the right thing. And when treating the lady who had migraine, I recall there were many episodes of apparent telepathic transmission. Naturally, that perked my interest. At the time, I was involved in all kinds of research projects, and I used to talk to my supervisor about it. She was a very famous lady, as a matter of fact, Dr. Adelaide Johnson. She sort of smile and click and say, well, you're going off the subject, got to stick on it. So I was always waiting I could get back to it, because in my mind, these things, the telepathic exchanges, were very much so to the point. Why do people get sick? How do they get their ideas? How do they stay healthy and get well, an optimistic attitude, a depressed outlook, so on. So these things were not just there for no reason. So when I finished that, returned to my private practice in northern New Jersey, where I was for many years. This goes back to the early 50s. One thing led to another, and here I am today. So it's an endless situation. As a matter of fact, I might say very early in the game, my old college friend Roy Swenson, the dentist, he surfaced, and he was telling me about this old man who was in his 90s at that point. He looked like he was in his 50s in New York, and he was a telepathist, and he was a very jolly fellow. I used to say, well, get off it, Roy. Ooh, you're kidding. This is nonsense. But the scientists should try and keep an open mind and not judge a priori or beforehand, shouldn't have his mind made up.
Now, isn't that interesting? A scientist should really do that. And it's amazing how much time is spent and money is spent on science to prove a pre-gone conclusion. I'm just so amazed at that. Dr. Schwarz, I think we can get you on a better line and we can all hear you a little bit better.
Sure.
So I'll have my engineer do that. And as he's doing that, I just want to remind our listeners that you are listening to The Laura Lee Show. And, Gee, are you going to take him off the line and get a better line here? Okay. I just want to remind you that you're listening to The Laura Lee Show. And also that we have tapes available of our shows and selected books and videos from our guests. And we've had a couple calls after I mentioned that to an earlier caller, so let me give you those numbers once again. If you are in the Seattle area, I am based in Bellevue, Washington, a suburb of Seattle. So if this is a not a long-distance call to you, please use our local number, which is area code 206-781-4473. That's our hotline, and if you want our order line, it's 206, what's the number? 455-1053. And if you want our 800 number, it's 1-800-243-1438. Now, let's see if we have you in a better line.
This sounds a lot better, Laura Lee.
That sounds a lot better, yes. Good. So, where were you? You were saying that...
I went in to see this gentleman, Romano, thinking, well, I'm going to waste the time, what nonsense, lug in those days a heavy reel-to-reel tape recorder and so on. And this jolly man answers the door in this place near Wall Street, Maiden Lane. And he says, just a minute, I'll see the president. And he opens the door and he pops out again, and one thing leads to another, and before you know it, he's doing his stunts. Think of a card and all kinds of other things. A cool breeze emanates from his finger, which he can control.
A cool breeze emanated
from his finger. And to make a long story short, he was studied by the famous bacteriologist Otto Rahn of Cornell University and many scientists years and years ago. This is in the late 50s, the early 60s. So then that began the study of Jacques Romano, who, when he was a young man in his teens, he left his home in Spain. He went all over the world. He performed before Queen Victoria and all the presidents and cowboys, and bank presidents and housewives and aviatrixes, you name it. And he always had this ability. He proclaimed that he was going to live to be 120. And he seemingly found this not just hype, it's actual fact, because he had photographs, spent many years documenting this, interviewing many people. He was on the level. He played in the small groups, the salon, so to speak, never took a dime for it. And a genius. And besides having the ability, he had a first-class mind. As you know, people can have the ability, and they're like everyone else. They can be rascals, or they can be reach the heights of magnitude in their character and other things, too. You find all kinds of people.
You made a good point. Special abilities do not necessarily always accompany wisdom and spiritual maturity, right?
Absolutely. Oh, you learn that the hard way. You've got to go with your eyes open. You've seen some of those wonderful stunts in the world, feats, and say, oh, my God, why does God call it what you wish, bestow the gifts on such a rascal? And then you can see somebody like Joey Newsom, who lives the one you were talking about earlier, isolated, if you will, provincial life in a rural area of Pennsylvania, has nothing, and yet the things that just come from him are just incredible, mind-boggling. Again, a challenge for medicine. Again, nature's laws.
Not just a challenge for medicine, I think a challenge for all of us.
Everybody. I try and confine it and hold me down, because so then you can stick to the subject and say, well, this I've seen, this I've documented, this I'll go by. The rest you've got to qualify speaking as a scientist. This is anecdotal, hearsay, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But then by collecting the data from Romano, then I went to all sorts of other people, including Joseph Dunninger. You might have heard of the amazing Dunninger.
No, I have not, but
60 years show business, numero uno in the United States when FDR was president, and then second most recognized.
Well, that was a little ahead of my time now, wasn't it?
Well, Joe died in the early 70s. I talked to his daughter yesterday on the phone, talking about you follow these things over many, many years, and you say, well, who in the family had it before him? Who is carrying on now in one way or another? And then Maxine, the daughter, she seems to have a good deal of her father in her.
So this thing can also be kind of genetic, or maybe it's not genetic in the genes so much as it's just if you grow up with an example right in front of you, you go, aha, this is possible. So you dehypnotize yourself from the impossibility of it or something.
Well, what's the attitude of the family? You had someone call in earlier. Some people dissociate. They split off. They deny it. They're frightened by it. All right, leave it alone. Back off. Others cannot have enough of it. If the family attitude is warm and nurturing, accepting, it will further and perhaps enhance the abilities. We could have a Mozart, as I would classify Joey Newsom, a Mozart of psychical abilities. Or it can be turned off in deleterious fashion. Does the surgeon use a scalpel for the benefit, or is he a butcher? Like that kind of thing. It's how you use it.
Mm-hmm. So where did you go from there? You were talking about Joseph Dunninger.
From Dunninger to Croisset, the clairvoyant, Professor Ten Hef's star, Caragnos, meet him if you want to, the gentleman in Holland who solved crimes, beginning of a lot of this, children missing in canals with the Queen. Holland was involved with a case in Colombia, South America. Croisset, when he first came to America, stayed with us. That's a long story. He did his enigmatic chair test. That's the first transatlantic test for precognition. I realize some of these things might come fast, but it's interesting. He was talking to a tape recorder in Holland, to paraphrase it, months in advance of what would happen at a certain time. As a matter of fact, Professor Benet's office in Fifth Avenue, New York, where we had a group of people. And the appointed day came, and everyone, we didn't know them from Adam. They're all there. Croisset at this time was in America. He flew up from South America, where he was involved in a crime case. We drive in New York. We're going through the very busy area with the horns honking and everything else. You just stop the car. It's on 8th Avenue with heavy traffic. Go into a Greek delicatessen and get him some eggs. He's popping these raw eggs one after another. And you say, what in the world are you telling me that? What does this have to do with it? What goes on in someone, and he has to take eggs high in cholesterol, precursor to steroids and various hormones. What was it that he'd crave these things? He'd really be psyched up, really worked up, high as a kite, very energetic, and high as a kite from his own normal energy, his own hormones, his own chemicals, his own self, true self. Went in and he called the shots. Indeed, the people were sitting there with the little things. A man looking through a newspaper with a hole in it. Now, what call it evidential? What kind of a dumb thing is that? That was the thing he said months earlier on the tape. Now, Professor Ten Hef developed the so-called chair test to quite an extent. He was professor of parapsychology, University of Utrecht in Holland,
Why did he call it a chair test?
Chair test, because someone would sit in a chair at an appointed time of, say, the 20, 30 chairs in the room in the future, and the paragnost, Croisset, that was his baby, he would call a shot as to who would be chair number 23, for example. There's a man, portly man, he's bald-headed, has spectacles, reading a newspaper with a hole in it, and he was on the train recently, calling all the shots. And as a matter of fact, we didn't write this up. I can say this now after 25, 30 years or so, because the one that he picked on, I happen to have known about. He was a very distinguished scientist in his own right. And Croisset was saying all these things, and scientist was so shocked he couldn't remember it was about himself. And I couldn't write it up without embarrassing someone, having someone get a red face. But it was also, as translated by this lady who lives in Nevada now, a Dutch nurse, very fine woman. So you go from one thing to another, and it's just endless. And of course, in practice, as a psychiatrist, you see all kinds of people, and you can't, in the process called psychotherapy, where the physician spends time with the patient, you listen to everything, things rub off, it's no dearth of it. So here again, the telepathic things resurface. I think it's widespread, common, and you studied your own family, which I did with my daughter being born, and my son did a book on it, parent-child telepathy. So we have something that's been going on since time immemorial, something that is there, something which is unexplained, which should be explained, which should be studied, and I don't think it's vestigial. That is like the appendix. They might not know the function of it, but there it is in the body.
It's interesting that I know Uri Geller had very vast audiences a couple of decades ago when he was bending spoons over the radio and over television and fixing watches and this kind of thing, but you really haven't seen so much interest until just of lately, where it's kind of all over. I mean, the public at large has got a very, very big interest now in the paranormal. And I'd like to ask you why the change. When we come back, we'll ask that of our guest, Dr. Berthold Schwarz, and he's giving us a chronological rundown of all the various folks that he has been studying over, I won't ask you how many decades, but it sounds like a long, long time that you've been at this study. And he'll share with us some of his opinions and research as to the whys, as well as the whos. I'm Laura Lee.
Laura Lee on Hot Talk 570 KVI.
A dog, my friends. You ought to have a dog. A friendly, faithful D-O-G-O-G. You gotta have a dog. Oh, sure, I suppose there were those who go for bats or rats or frogs. But me, I go to the dogs. He's faithful and true, devoted to you, so what do? You go to Petco. Premium food for every meal. It'll show him how you really feel. Petco. Give him all the best. You know how we always say the best you can get for your pet? Well, that also means the best buys you can get. For example, here's a little Christmas present for you from Petco. Right now, through December 24th, you can get $2 off any 20-pound bag or larger of Science Diet, Limes, Nutro, or Nature's Recipe pet food. $2 off any 20-pound or larger bag at Petco, your pet food supply headquarters. Your puppy will be a whole lot happier. Jump up on your lappier. Petco, give them all the best. Your pet is more than welcome at Petco.
You can see that we mean business the moment you walk in. We got so much more to offer, but anywhere you've been, Office Max, taking it to the max.
It's the holidays, and there's no better way to get into the spirit of the season than stopping by Office Max. Perfect for giving, daydream calendars in a wide range of styles and formats for every personal taste. Office Max has a complete selection for just $8.99. And personalize your season's greetings with holiday stationery and envelopes from Office Max. Choose from 8 designs for just $4.99 at Office Max.
Take it to the max. We got everything you need. Keep your office going. Build your company. Office Max. Taking it. Office Max. To the max.
5 area locations, including Federal Way at the intersection of Pacific Highway and Southwest 320th, and in Bellevue at Sturco Center, Northeast 20th and 148th Avenue.
We're here at the Plates of Steel Powerlifting Gym checking out what people think of Talk Along, a totally new, affordable, portable phone service. Talk Along service includes a really neat, lightweight phone and, So, tell me, big guy, how do you like the phone?
It's terrible.
Huh?
The design's all wrong.
Come on, it's a great design. It's small, it's light, it fits right in your pocket or purse.
That's the problem. It's not heavy enough. It should have some heft. 70, maybe 80-pound phone.
Oh, come on, give me a break.
Oh, come on, work out those deltoids. Firm up those triceps every time you call.
Talk Along, the affordable portable phone service. It's only $19.95 a month, and calls are only 39 cents a minute. So pick up a starter kit.
Listen, people want to have talk along so they can call on their friends, stay in touch with their loved ones. They do not want an 80-pound phone.
Okay,
right?
then what about this way? The 40-pound trainer phone, perfect for beginners. Come on, chicken legs. 1, 2, 3, 1.
Talk Along, the affordable portable from U.S. West.
Pick up a starter kit for $29.95 at Larry's Markets and participating Al's Auto Supply stores.
Keep listening. Sunday evenings at 7, hear radio for your mind with Art Bell's Dreamland. Count on Hot Talk 570 KVI.
And we are back. Hi, I'm Laura Lee. This is the Laura Lee Show. We're talking with Dr. Berthold Schwarz. Now, I pose the question to you, why is it, we turn the music down, please, why is it that we are having so much more interest in these topics? You know, if I were around a couple of decades ago, I would have thought that there was not much good scientific research, that people like you, Dr. Schwarz, had not thoroughly examined people who can do some of these extraordinary things, that there wasn't some real good data. In fact, there has been good data accumulating for a long, long time. But I think that the difference now is that we're in this information age, this explosion of readily accessible information and experience, so that we have talk shows on television, on radio, all over the place. There's a plethora of books around, that this information now to the average person on the street is readily accessible. And once we find out that, oh yeah, so-and-so has done this and this has been well documented and there are these people doing it and other people who do it, it's less scary, it's less intimidating. And I think that people can acknowledge their own experiences, and we have these mystical experiences personally, or that they can exist. Now that's what I've come up with just thinking about it for a minute. What do you think?
I think you have a good point there. Certainly, as I turned my television on last night, they had some shows, both sides, pros and cons, which should be the case. So it does stimulate interest. People say, oh, I have this, or my uncle and my mom's reported this and that. They make a personal reference to it, and it wakes them up. But unless we carry it beyond that and go on forward with the thing, we're right back where we started from. For example, I have failed to date with my friend Joey Newsom, who can perform and control this greater than anyone I've ever come across. This includes Uri Geller, who I happen to know. And Joe is absolutely magnificent. My goal of making a documentary on him, it wouldn't be too difficult, but you have to work according to the needs of the one who has the abilities to. For example, he's a night owl. He's up, his best stuff might come 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, put him on the show. We're a night owl show.
I don't know if he's the most articulate of people, but with the television, he's right when he's turned on and entranced. Some of the things that come out of his mouth are amazing, but for the things that he can do, as you mentioned, and when he's turned on, the levitation of an object, matter through matter, and you do these things with 3 television cameras going at the same time, you can get some pretty interesting data and say, well, by golly, this is the same thing we hear of in the UFO cases, the same thing you read about in the Bible, the same thing in another book, all through history. Say, well, what do we do with it? We're going to stay right stuck in the middle, the gridlock as it's been all these years? Or are we going to say, as my goal would be, if Joey could have a documentary and get some performances, maybe then going through the back door we get into medical schools. I would wish that my own medical school would take an interest and answer the letters and the tapes I've sent them and invite them up there where they could do all the things that should be done that are not being done. As you said, the television, the information age, that also pertains to medicine, actually all the other sciences too.
You know, I have a quibble and I have a compliment for the skeptics and the scientists who aren't allowing this information out. My quibble is that it's not up to them to decide our reality. This is a group project for us to decide what is the nature of reality, what's going on here, what is the outer limits of human ability. Is a group project. It requires all of our participation, and I don't think science is serving us when it says this can't happen and I won't even look at it. I think that it can add its input, but it's up to the rest of us to also participate in this definition of reality. And my other compliment to the sciences is, of course, you've got to go into this with a skeptical mind and a cautious mind, but not a closed mind. And I think that you can't just say anybody who claims to have abilities, you throw the door open and say, oh, sure, yeah, you know, I think you've got to maintain a pure database and also a little protection of your own credulity and check everyone out on an ad hoc basis. And I think that this topic, just like any topic or any realm, is subject to abuse and deceit. Could you comment on that?
Well, we're talking actually about serious things tonight. We could have hours, or anyone could do a better job than myself about fakers and crooks and mountebanks and charlatans. There's enough of that. And the scientists, the honest one, which is the great bulk of them, of course, they have their reputations. They must jealously guard them. We must be very careful so that the data we present is so solid, it's pristine, clear, and pure, will stand up, hold up under all conditions. As an example, I once had an eminent retired scientist to my office, and he was helping, as a matter of fact, his wife and my wife. They were having a garage sale for Republican Women Aware charity. This man was an eminent man, many patents, world famous, I won't mention his name. When he was at his great company, he shared a bench with William Shockley, the Nobel Prize winner, inventor of the transistor, co-inventor of the transistor. So I knew this fellow fairly well. He's much older than myself. I said, well, gee, come on in my conference room. I'd like to show you some of the icons, some of the specimens, to show you a picture. At that time, a lady I was studying who would, quote, materialize, that gold leaf you might have seen on television, would materialize on our body, just to show him the pictures, show him some of the specimens, get his opinion. He's a world-famous physical scientist. Nicest man in the world. There he'd be on his knees in his 70s at that point, fixing toasters and lighters and things on that score, but he absolutely wouldn't even dare to do it. And here, one son was president of a leading university in the Midwest, and the other son had a National Research Council job. Well, what was the reason? Was it he's a human being, his own need to deny and shut out that which is beyond him, his need to protect his reputation? He's going to be caught in a trap. It's very easy. If you can't stand the heat of the kitchen, get out. Because you get into these things, these people, as discussed earlier, are human beings. You find the best and the worst in the same person often, and it isn't always a pure and clear picture. You got to work at it.
Mm-hmm. That's the human dilemma, isn't it? A, you got to work at it, and B, it's not going to be a clear picture necessarily.
You have to join in with it, and you're part of the party, so to speak. On the other hand, you have to be able at the same time to stand off, be dissociative for the scientist himself, stand off and coldly, analytically take your data, record the thing, see what's going on. Check it. Check oneself.
And we'll come right back and do some more of that checking with Dr. Berthold Schwarz and see what more he has to say on this fascinating topic of extraordinary abilities. I'm Laura Lee.
Laura Lee on Hot Talk 570 KVI.
You can feel the excitement. Christmas is just around the corner. And this year, your favorite artists are back on one great compact disc and cassette. Ernst Holman Nursery and Pace International present The Best of Christmas in the Northwest, featuring 19 favorites from Christmas past.
Oh, jingle bells, in Christmas time they will love you.
And the new hit single, Just Another Wet Seattle Christmas. The Best of Christmas in the Northwest. Proceeds benefit Children's Hospital and Medical Center in Seattle. Available on cassette and compact disc at Ernst and wherever records are sold.
For 30 years, Valley Pontiac Buick GMC has made the car buying experience enjoyable with great service and fantastic products. And here's a personal suggestion from me, John Carlson. Visit Valley of Auburn today and test drive the Buick LeSabre and the Buick Regal. That's right, I'm asking you to test drive two cars because I'm sure you'll enjoy both of them. The LeSabre is the first choice of American families. It is loaded with Buick quality. Plus, it has great gas mileage. Listen to this. For the full-size Buick LeSabre sedan, you'll get about 29 miles to the gallon. Plus, it comes equipped with standard ABS brakes, dual airbags, and a 3.8-liter V6 engine. The Buick Regal also has that same powerful engine and an available Grand Sport package. Plus, for the first time, the 95 Regals come standard with dual airbags for your safety. The Buick LeSabre and the Buick Regal, both are great cars, both are Buick, and both are at Valley of Auburn. Take the 272nd exit off I-5 out near Federal Way, head east, then turn right on Auburn Way North and go a mile and a half to Valley of Auburn.
As a public service, Washington Mutual presents the first ever radio commercial with a warning label.
Warning. If you're a banker, especially a banker who works for one of those big commercial banks that charge exorbitant monthly service fees for a checking account, please do not listen to the following message from Washington Mutual, as it may cause stress, high blood pressure, and shortness of breath.
There. With that done, we can now tell you about Washington Mutual's latest free checking offer. It's called Classic Checking, and it comes with no minimum balance and no monthly service fee. It also comes with a Washington Mutual cash card that lets you conveniently access your checking account at stores, restaurants, and cash machines all over the world. Free checking with no minimum balance and a Washington Mutual cash card. That makes for some pretty good news, unless, of course, you happen to work for some other bank. That's different. That's Washington Mutual, the friend of the family. FDIC insured.
Hi, this is Rush Limbaugh. You hear my voice, you say, "Oh, wow, what's Rush going to talk about next? Because I know it's going to be good." Well, I'm going to talk to you about food. I'm going to talk to you about steak, the best steak you can get. Those of you who know Ruth's Chris Steakhouse will understand what I mean when I say that the Ruth's Chris steak is like no other steak in the world. At the moment it arrives at your table, you can see that this is no ordinary steak. This is U.S. prime. This is serious steak. This is the creme de la creme. You cut into it and the steak is incredibly tender, and then you taste it. Yummo. The flavor is rich. It's intense. It's extraordinary. Every bite full of corn-fed flavor. Your steak is grilled in a special broiler, 1,800 degrees, served sizzling, and it stays so hot you savor the flavor all the way to the last bite. Now, wouldn't a Ruth's Chris steak taste great tonight?
Call Ruth's Chris today and book your holiday party reservations. Call 624-8524. That's 624-8524.
Keep listening. Weeknights at 9. Hear the show where your opinion counts. It's Night Talk with Kirby Wilbur. Count on Hot Talk 570 KVI.
Hey, we are back. Hi, Laura Lee here on The Laura Lee Show, talking with Dr. Berthold Schwarz. So, Dr. Schwarz, tell us a little bit more about Joey. How did you meet him? What are some of these abilities that he has demonstrated to you so well? And we'll put you back on. Go ahead. What now?
Hi, Laura Lee.
Hi.
It's a long story about how I met Joey Newsom, the 36-year-old former foundry worker and currently martial arts teacher in rural Pennsylvania. As a matter of fact, I was scammed by one of the best, most notorious, he would be a one for you to do a show on, debunkers in the country. What a man to do a show on, I can assure you, but no one, the media, for whatever it is, doesn't want to touch it. Anyway, I was really scammed, and this fellow that did the dirty work, we were on to him. He was always talking about this guy, Joey Newsom. And after the roof came in on me, the man said, how can you fight someone who lies to you? He has the ability, whether it's yourself or other people, it's a combination of things. I think everyone has it. So after the roof came in, I said, I know my data was correct. And I got this rascal, a liar, self-admitted liar on national television, headlines, New York Times, and Discover magazine, none of which would print the letters of refutation by myself, Professor Eisenbud, and others. They wouldn't touch us. Again, you say, why is the media show interest or not interest? These are very involved questions. So I said, this stuff is so. I got this self-confessed liar on the telephone, and I listed 25 things thereabouts. And I said, how about this event, that event, coincidence. How can you win with someone like that? Almost all of them were coincidence. Yet to the public, he was saying everything was a trick. He was the greatest one.